Yeah, as war is looming in the East, our economy is tanking. It's a recession for sure. People are spending more and getting less for their money. Interest rates are increasing. A real estate bust is probably not that far off in the future. There are so many things that we stress over beyond just the daily grind of doing our job and commuting and all these different things. It's enough to really. Hello, my friends, and welcome to Life Skills Academy on at Monday Morning Cup of Joe. And what we're talking about here really is the ability to weather this storm that's coming up. And we've all felt like we've been in a storm since COVID, at least, that, the aftermatter has not hit the ground yet. And it's challenging. It's hard. Look, if you find yourself full of stress, anxiety, burnt out, depressed, well, you're not alone, not by a long shot. The key skill that we need to learn is resilience. How do we weather the storm? And I'm going to give you 8 tips on how you can weather the storm, skills that you can hone and practice that will allow you to stand strong against the current winds. And that's not easily said. This is a journey that I'm going through too. I've been doing a lot of research in the area of neuroscience and how it relates to resilience. And it was very, very interesting. There's one study that showed that some of us are more susceptible to stress and anxiety and all these other negative effects from our emotions because, get this, if a mother during pregnancy experiences stress, and I mean significant amounts of stress, their bodies release cortisol, and they share the bloodstream with their child, and that cortisol also affects the infant. So if this is what happened for your mother while she was pregnant with you, you may have a propensity towards these negative and debilitating emotions. So this becomes even more so important, is that we give you these 8 strategies for overcoming these difficult times. And so let's get started. Let's start with number 1, optimism. Now, look, it drives me nuts because in my research, I do watch many videos on the topic, but I also go to, Harvard Business Journal and other studies that are more academic, and even global studies in the area of neuroscience, which is equally as big, in comparison to the United States, in Germany and France and other parts of the world. And they say, oh, well, just be optimistic. Thank you. That's so helpful. Go jump off a cliff, right? What's that mean? I mean, I think we know fundamentally what optimism means, but a lot of us are like, be optimistic. Really? Are you serious? In this difficult situation, in these difficult times where we're living paycheck to paycheck, or just being able to deal with increased interest rates, devaluation of homes. I mean, we're in a situation where, like I said earlier, the home market is scary. You buy now, you might see the market tank and you're going to owe more than that home is worth. These are scary things. So what do? I'm a realist. I consider myself an optimist, but I come from the perspective of a realist. Now, I'm not a pessimist. Look, what's happened has happened. The best way to rally back from difficult times is to get up off the ground, dust off your knees, get back into the race, right? But doing so mindfully, we'll talk about that later, is a way of doing it without carrying more stress. Optimism, from a realist standpoint is, look, yes, I know that times are difficult right now. It's not a Pollyanna, rose-colored glasses, positive toxicity approach. It's being realistic and saying, yes, what can I do right now that will make a difference? What can I do to make my life a little bit easier? People are selling off their stuff. They're shrinking their footprint on the earth. They're trading things for experiences. They're traveling even throughout the United States to enjoy the beauty of nature, take a breath from the day to day. They're working from wherever they are. Some of them are moving around in like RVs or tiny homes or things like that. But I'm starting to think that maybe they've got the right idea. Sure, you may want to keep a home base of real estate, but being able to try to become more agile in your life and reduce the burden of stuff on you, right? You don't own stuff, stuff owns you. And it's true, because I've done a massive downsizing, getting rid of a lot of things that, look, if I haven't used it in the past year or even 6 months, and I don't think the opportunity is going to come again, I'll let it go. I let it go. So it's really important to be optimistic and say, what can I do right now? What are the opportunities? Explore, right? Because when you are in reaction mode, you've got that amygdala and that limbic system just taken over, and you're feeling all those emotions, and they're not positive. They're not positive emotions. These are the things that really bring you down. And if you watch the news before you go to bed, knock it off, right? Because the news generally is talking about, the Middle East conflicts and all these gloom and doom type things. You don't see a lot of good news on network media, right? And all you're doing is you're feeding your brain stuff to release that cortisol before you go to bed, and your brain will not stop thinking because it's in fear mode. It's running all those tapes, and you're not getting enough sleep. It's not a way to live. It's not a way to live healthily. A lot of this does correlate to the body breaking down its immune system and causing things like cancer, also, emotional disorders, mental illness, a myriad of things that can have us behind the 8 ball. So optimism is being realistic, but taking action to find out, what can I do now that will make my life a little bit easier? That's important. Tip number 2 is adaptability. How do we adapt to things? How do we become more agile? We've got to be open. And I think, thank goodness, I really believe that the younger generations, the millennials and the Gen Zs, will begin to adapt because they've been in an environment for adaptation. It's like being in the simulation. When you're playing video games and and understand all these things, and a change hits, you adjust. You learn about how it works, like AI, right? A lot of us may be freaked out because, oh, will AI take your job? Maybe so. So right now, what you need to be doing is start learning about artificial intelligence and how to do prompts so that you can become the master of AI that works for you. And I'm not here to sell you anything on AI, but that is a mindset that we need to be in. Our ability to adapt is to learn about the change and then find out how we can play a part in that change. So adaptability is super important. We need to be flexible. We need to learn to go with the flow. If we are rigid, we will snap. But if we're like the reed and we bend with the wind, we can persevere. And that's super important. Tip number 3, self-care. Look, guys, you've seen my videos. I'll have some videos on the end cards of this video that will help you in any of these and more in depth, but we've got to take care of ourselves. We saw what happened to the baby boomers. They worked their tails off to make money and ended up giving that money at the end of their time to the doctors to keep them alive. That's not quality of life. That's not worth living, right? So we've got to make sure we get a decent amount of sleep, a minimum of 6 hours of sleep every day. So we've got to figure out a routine. For me, it's going out and getting fresh air, because the more fresh air that I get, I might go for a hike, might just go for a walk around the block, but it helps me relax in the evening. So I get to bed at a decent time, so I can get up at a decent time and not feel that brain fog. Lack of sleep, poor diet, no exercise, brain fog a la mode. That's what that delivers. So self-care is critical to our ability to recognize emotions that are coming up from our amygdala and our limbic system and push them into the frontal neocortex, which is a place of action and planning and critical thinking. We'll talk about that a little bit more coming up. Then, well, coming up, the next tip is critical thinking. Critical thinking is about our ability to look at a situation and problem solve. Look at the situation and clearly state the problem as we experience it. And then say, okay, what are my options? What are my alternatives that I can do to reduce the impact or eliminate this from being a problem? So we make decisions. We've got to make good decisions. There's a process for that. If you have any interest in learning about critical thinking, give me a comment down below and I will send you a PDF. There's no charge for it, but it's on critical thinking and the things that you need to be able to do in order to become a good critical thinker. And let me tell you, this reduces a great deal of stress because, again, it pushes you into a place of action instead of reaction and playing the victim. Victim is not going to get you anywhere. Being proactive in solving the challenges that we face in day-to-day life, that is going to allow you to become resilient and thrive in difficult times. The next one, the next tip number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Tip number 5 is social groups, social connection. Look, you know, from Monday Morning Cup of Joe, I have friends and colleagues that I sit down with either virtually or we meet up at our local coffee house. And we talk about some of the things that we are challenged with, we're finding difficult. And at bare minimum, I get at least other people going, yeah, I'm going through that too. I don't know what to do yet, but let's talk about that because maybe we can come up with some ideas. Or someone might say, I know exactly what you're talking about. I was going through that a year ago. This is what I did. You might try something like this. So social circles are important for us to be able to find empathy from others, good listeners, and develop solutions together and not feel alone. Because so oftentimes in this day and age where we can do everything from some compartment and not be around other people, and I'm an introvert, so I get it. But I've developed these relationships. I don't have a ton of relationships. I have a tight-knit group that, you know, I feel comfortable opening up. And some of the best conversations come from that. And I can do it only for so long, right? And then my batteries get drained and then I go to solitude. But social connection is so important. Find people in your tribe to hang with. I can't give you a better tip than that. The next is mindfulness. And we've talked about this in previous podcasts. There's a card up here if you're interested in learning about mindfulness. And it's not, you know, this, you look it up on the web, you got all these people sitting in the lotus position, doing a mantra. Look, I'm not saying that that doesn't work, but that may not work for you. Mindfulness merely means to be in the moment. Do not allow the past, as my friend Eleni would say, take up rent in your head. The past is dry cement. Let it go. Let it go. You can't change the past. The present is the most important because it is what lays down the pavers for the future, right? So be in the moment, recognize things, try to be objective, try not to allow your emotions to trample over your logical thinking. Look, there's nothing wrong with feeling emotions. Emotions have an important role of being a human being. It allows us to be compassionate towards others, and most importantly, compassionate towards ourselves. The practice of empathy is huge, not just in business, but in life. So being mindful, being aware, self-aware, we just had a podcast on that. That'll be in one of the end cards. Self-awareness is so important. The next tip that I have for you is a biggie. And I'll be honest with you. Tip number 7 is gratitude versus comparison. Now, I remember, gratitude lists go back, 30 plus years. And I remember I thought, well, that's kind of silly, writing. I did it. I wrote down gratitude list. Some of the things I crossed out because I realized I wasn't quite so grateful for them. They were more of a curse than a blessing. But interestingly enough, I stuck with it. I've got a pretty good sized gratitude list. And to be quite honest, I review it practically every morning. If I remember, I get up and I'll take a look at it and go, yeah, this is what fires the flame inside of me. This is worth living for. And occasionally I find myself even adding to it. So gratitude lists, I got to tell you, I thought they were hooey. And then I started practicing it and thought, gosh, this is great. Because what are the other things we practice? Scrolling through social media and all the different platforms, Facebook, Instagram, blah, 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 right? Is comparison. We compare ourselves to other people's lives. And we're like, gee whiz, I don't have a mansion. I don't have a yacht. I don't have a personal jet plane. I don't get to go to, extremely expensive exotic restaurants and, global places and eat weird food, whatever. Look, let me tell you, I work a lot with people who have those types of lifestyles as a coach, and they are not happy. They are not happy. Do they enjoy themselves at times? Yes, but when they look at their stuff, they're in the same boat we are. They're experiencing the same feelings that we are. As somebody once said, "Mo money, mo problems." And I've talked to these people and they say, "Gosh, you really don't know who your real friends are. You don't know if they like you because you're rich or if they genuinely care about you as a human being." And think about that. That's got to be incredibly difficult. So please, folks, don't waste time comparing your life to someone else's, because that's wasting time that you could spend creating the life that you want. Customize it, right? You want to be grateful for that which you have and start to build towards things that you will be grateful for in the future. Trade things for experience. Trade stuff for good, solid relationships that will last a lifetime. And our last tip, number 8, is new experiences. And this is so important. Our ability to really thrive in life is to experience new things, because when we experience new things, we learn new things. And lifelong learning is really key to longevity and the ability to be resilient and to weather the storm that we are facing now and in the near future. So learn about new things. Get into AI, or if you're not into tech stuff, get into some kind of skill or a trade, or learn to weave, learn to do different things. Learn. That is the key. Learning and being curious about things, about cultures, about what people are doing on the other side of the world, about different stuff. That's what really keeps you resilient, because your focus is not on being stuck, being alone, feeling alone, being depressed, feeling anxiety, feeling sad. These are debilitating. And I'm telling you that even though these things are released by the brain, it's a whole body experience. When you feel these emotions, that cortisol gets released to other parts of the body and they react a certain way. Some of them shut down, some of them hyperactivate. This is not good for our physiology. This is not good for our health. This is where many of our illnesses stem from, because they lower our immune system and our ability to fight off things that are not good for us. We're learning more and more about these things in neuroscience every day, and that's what makes it so exciting. So those are your 8 tips for being able to become more resilient. Practice them. If you have any questions or you're struggling with anything, please put the comments down below. And I read all the comments and I respond to all the comments. And by the way, if you do get a chance, please subscribe to our channel. We're here for you. Like and share with a friend who may be needing this information because you know they're going through a tough time. Oh, and by the way, this is on my gratitude list. So between now and next week, have a great one, and I will see you next time. Cheers.